Welcome to the Collective Genius Podcast, the show for real estate investors who are looking to scale.
Welcome into the Collective Genius Podcast. I am Leon Barnes, your host. This is the podcast for real estate investors that want to grow and scale their business or are currently in the process of growing and scaling beyond where they are today. Whether you have $1 million business or $2 million business, everybody in this room, everybody on this pod is up and to the right, is continuing to push the rock up the hill. And I've got another one of those members here today. I love when we have members on the show that are diversified and yet still they build something, they get that right before they move on to the next thing. I got another one of those members on the show here today. Please welcome in my good friend and longtime CG member, Brad Bone. How are you, my friend?
Doing good, Leon. Thank you.
Good to see you in beautiful California. The sun always is shining in your office. I love that. We here in Florida are about to get really jealous of you Californians because you guys don't get that humidity. You get the nice heat without the humidity and without the bugs. So we get a little jealous, but you're a Californian, and we'll get into your story here. You're a Californian that loves your state, but also loves my state. You operate here in Jacksonville remotely. Why don't you tell people what it is that you do, the two businesses that you have, to start off as an intro, and then we'll get into your story.
Yeah, so so my brother and I have been real estate investors since 2015. I started in 2014 on my own, kind of buying at the courthouse steps, and then I have a twin brother, Justin. We partnered up in 2015, and we were buying in our hometown, Bakersfield, for the first few years. And then over time, if you're a California investor, you're always thinking about trying to get out of California. That's just how we all think. And we picked Jacksonville out of just pointing on a map. There's really no good reason other than we knew it was a good market. And that was about 2018. And so we've been there since. And over time, it just made a lot more sense to focus in one market. Our team knew that market better. So we dropped Bakersfield and focused on Jacksonville since. So that's the real estate side. And then we have an AI platform and a business that we started about almost 2 years ago. And we help real estate investors get AI appointment setting into their business.
So I'm going to talk about both of those. We're going to start with the investment side, but before we get into that piece of it, your story is a unique one, my friend. And I feel like I say this every single week. But you're the only person that I've ever had on the show that comes from a family of farmers. And being originally from the state of Kansas, I can relate to this because I didn't come from a family of farmers, but a lot of the business owners that I know still have farming in their blood. A lot of investors that I know still have farming in their blood. You grew up, you and your brother, your family grew up. Your dad is a pistachio farmer, which that's very unique in itself. When you were young, is that something that you saw yourself continuing, or you just said, that's not something for me, I want to do something else?
Yeah, when I was young, I feel like I always use the term we because I'm thinking of as my brother and I growing up as twins. So yeah. We spent a lot of summers on the farm, driving tractor, chopping weeds, things like that. So it wasn't necessarily something I was really wanted to do growing up. I want to do something else, Yeah. But as I've gotten older, I've fallen more and more in love with the farm as you get older, which seems like that happens to, in a lot of ways.
And we're thankful for that because every summer I worked on my grandparents' farm and I look back at that. At the time, I hated it. But I know that's where my work ethic came from.
Yeah. So we grew up, I remember spring breaks, we were often planting cotton. So yeah, while everyone else was out doing stuff. But we look back, we have really good memories of that now. I remember as a kid, I think we were 7 years old. We were out chopping weeds in the cotton field, and middle of summer, and we were trying to figure out how much money we needed to make in order to buy super soakers and the squirt guns.
Definitely remember.
I don't think we ever bought those things, but that's what our goal was.
That was the goal. That kept you getting up in the morning and doing what you were supposed to do, right? It was the thing. It was the carrot that you were going after. Those memories that I have working on the farm in Illinois every summer, are some of my fondest memories. And I got to spend it with my grandparents, right? And so I'm sure you having that time with your brother and your family, built, those relationships to a point where now, I've heard you talk about this before. A lot of people struggle in partnerships. You've had a partner from the womb.
Yeah.
As a twin brother. I'm guessing, growing up together, probably didn't think that you would go into business together, I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Yeah. I remember even when we started working together, not 100% sure how that would work because we're twins, but we're not identical. And we definitely are different in certain ways, but we've kind of found our niche and it's worked out really well. Yeah.
Yeah. So you grow up on the farm. You don't go right into real estate. You go to college, and then what? You take this degree. You're going to do what with it?
Yeah. So I got a degree in construction management, and I went into the commercial building industry. So I got a job with a big commercial builder out of San Diego. And it was kind of like either work in San Diego, LA, or San Francisco. I wanted to be in San Diego, so got a job there, graduated, got a job, and got married all within a couple months.
Oh, wow.
And so I worked there for about 2 years, and I still like construction, but it was not. I was starting to get the feeling it was not something I wanted to do long term. So when I was in college was when the run up was happening in the real estate market, and I graduated in 2006. So that probably implanted a desire to get into real estate eventually.
Yeah, everybody was buying multiple houses, getting approved with no cash down. Yeah, so I can see that frenzy. Meanwhile, I was selling advertising and I couldn't find enough mortgage brokers to sell advertising to. That was my frenzy, right? Mortgage brokers were buying every ad that I could. Anybody that had a LLC that was a mortgage broker, I was knocking on their door. You saw the opportunity on the other side, which was getting into real estate as a profession. At what point does that become a reality?
It was about 2014. And I remember where I was walking right out of my office here. And my brother had just bought a house and had gotten a pretty good interest rate. And I just thought, I don't want to let that pass up, And that was just the thought that sparked it all. It's weird how you can have these little thoughts or little conversations that can just change the trajectory of your future.
Right.
And that specifically, I don't know where it came. It just hit me. I don't want to let the interest rates pass me up. And I started, researching and getting into it. And, it was a lot of listening to podcasts back then. Bigger Pockets was a big influence.
What year is this, 2014?
Yeah, about 2014.
Yeah, this would have just been starting around that time.
Yeah, it would have. Yeah.
So you're listening to this podcast. You see the interest rates, which, by the way, do you remember what that interest rate was in 2014?
They were probably in the 5s or something. I don't remember.
Yeah. I'm guessing 5s because it wouldn't have been what we saw in 21, right. 2020 and 2021, but it was probably 5.5 in that range. Yeah. On the retail side, it would have, for personal loans, probably in that 5, but for commercial loans, probably 5.5, 6, at that time. Cause that's the year that I joined CG.
Okay.
So as you're getting into it, in 2014, there's not a lot outside of Bigger Pockets, a couple books here and there. There's not a lot of education in the space at that given time, which is crazy to think. That's just 12 years ago. It wasn't like, 20, 30 years ago. You decide, California, especially at that given time. I remember because in CG, everyone was trying to find out how to get to direct to seller consistently. because people that were doing well in Florida, Texas, and California, most of them had been buying hundreds of deals at the courthouse steps. And they were coming to CG to learn how to get direct to seller. So you said, I'm going to go to these courthouse steps first. Where'd you learn that from? You learned that from the podcast? You learned that from your local market? And how did that start?
Yeah, I had a cousin who had been buying at the courthouse steps for the past 10 years or something like that.
Okay.
And I kind of partnered with him, and I think we had some kind of split set up. So I would go with a realtor. We drive around, knock on doors, try to peek inside, of people that were about ready to get foreclosed on. And then we'd go to the auction and bid. So I did that for probably 2 months with a local real estate agent, and he was into real estate investing as well. And he was kind of teaching me a little bit. And so, yeah, that went for a little while. And then my cousin and his company, they eventually pivoted into something else. And so at that point I had a decision to make, do we, it's like, that could be a really bad thing or a really good thing. We turned that into a good thing. So
clearly, yeah,
went on our own at that point. Yeah.
So this journey, this is the piece that, when people are listening to the show, like, that was the moment. That was the moment that the business that we see today started. You continued to buy at the courthouse steps, or you said, I need to figure out, another path here at that time?
Yeah, I know we didn't buy at the courthouse steps after that. So we started doing direct mail. And direct mail was kind of the way to
It was.
That was the one, probably there may have been other ways, but that was the main way.
It was the main way in 2000. What this is probably 15, 16 at this point.
Yeah, this was 2015.
Yeah, so
late,
15
or early
was,
2015.
If you didn't dominate mail, you weren't a player in your market. It's just that's the way it was in 15. And people were doing other things, but mail was number one.
Yeah, it was. And I remember, I don't know that we ever got these response rates, but like people were talking about 8% response rates. And we had a coach. Well, we hired a guy for, it was a very small kind of little coaching program thing. I think it was $5,000. And then we pay him something when we get our first deal. Anyway, what he taught us was, don't even, if people don't leave a voicemail, don't even call them back. It's not worth it. That's crazy now. But back then, I guess it's probably not smart back then either, but you could sort of get away with it back then.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because there weren't as many people sending as much mail as you probably started to send over time. And because and there was just less competition, right? There were people still buying at courthouse steps, but again, this is where people were coming to this community, 12 years ago to figure out how to get direct to seller, because those 200 properties, 300 properties a year they were buying at the courthouse steps started to become less and less and less. And there's still some people buying at courthouse steps consistently, depending upon the state, but you can't sustain and grow and scale a business with just that one source. I shouldn't say can't. I don't like to use that word. There's somebody listening to this going, I do it every day, Leon, and I'm growing consistently. So you get to this point, you're now doing direct mail. And at some point, you mentioned earlier that Californians always are looking at it, especially, I will say this, consistently across the board, every California investor I know would love to invest and hold in other markets, but not necessarily make their primary market another market. So you're in Bakersfield, and at some point during this time, you go, we need to try something else. Where did that come from?
Yeah. So actually where that came from was we would go to the IMN conferences every year.
The one here in Florida.
What's that?
The one here in Florida or
actually, yeah. So there's one in Florida, and then there's one in Scottsdale. We normally go to the Scottsdale.
That makes sense.
It was kind of like we were a tag along with my cousin's company. And so when we were brand new, knew nothing, we would go to these IMN conferences, and these guys were getting up there, these hedge funds were talking about the smile states, the Southeast and the Midwest. And so that's kind of what got it in our head that, man, we got to get into these other states. So that was a goal for several years until we finally, I think what we did, we just started sending direct mail to Jacksonville. we just kind of picked Jacksonville. I had another cousin who was graduating college, or actually he was graduating high school, didn't want to go to college and wanted to be our acquisitions guy. And he's like, send me anywhere. So I said, okay, how about Jacksonville? So he went down there and worked with us for a few years. So that's how it just kind of came together like that. Probably not the way I would do it if I were to do it again, but you just sort of patch stuff together and all of a sudden you find out you've got a house under contract in Jacksonville and you're trying to figure out what to do with it. So,
Well, I mean, there's better ways to go about it, but it worked out for you. It clearly is still working. The one thing I will say is actually two. Number one, there are not many people that have been successful for a sustained period of time doing what you do. And clearly you've had success at it and you've grown the business since I've known you. The second piece of that is, had you to do it over again, you probably wouldn't have chosen Jacksonville, knowing that it was one of the most competitive markets. When I first joined this group, there was probably 3 people with one tier that were all in Jacksonville, and there were bigger players than even them in Jacksonville at the time. I just remember it being super competitive, and we had a waiting list for Jacksonville investors. And so looking at that, you made it in a market that a lot of people say, oh, my market's competitive. Everybody says their market's competitive. I can tell you from experience, there were a lot of players from 2014 even till today that are in that marketplace, because it is such a transient market. You have military, you have such a I think it's you have Amazon, you have all these different companies that make it such a transient market. And so there's a lot of real estate transactions in a very large metropolitan area for the state of Florida. So you guys chose a market that ended up working out for you, but you probably wouldn't have chosen had you known that when you did it.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, it's a unique market in that it has good cash flow and also has appreciation.
Yep.
So that's sometimes a lot of times you get one or the other. Where actually a lot of markets did both over the past few years, but traditionally it's like one or the other.
Right.
Yeah.
Give me what do you feel like has been for you operations based in California, market in Florida? What's been because there's people listening to this right now going, man, I feel like I'm tapped out, which more than likely they're not, but that's their feeling, that they're tapped out in their current market. They're listening to this and going, hey, how's he been so successful being that far away, 3 time zones away in that market and growing it? What do you feel like has been the secret sauce for you?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think we're you do have to have a very create culture as much as possible over Zoom, really, over virtually. I think when we first started, we didn't have culture. We didn't focus on culture and focus on core values and things like that. And that's what's happened. Yeah, right. Yeah, and so that was something that we started to develop later on, and it's I think it's a lot easier to build culture when you're in a local market, when you're seeing people every day.
Yes.
So you got to make a definite effort at that. And I think another thing we've maybe started to figure out recently is we've actually pared our team down a little bit, because you start to get a little bigger and now it's just more personalities and more culture to try to handle. And it's like, all right, pare it down. And then there's just it's a little bit simpler and easier to kind of corral the culture. So that's been more of a recent thing that we've kind of realized as we've done that. Because I think for a while you're trying to go the other way. You're trying to grow, add more people, thinking that's success. And over the past probably couple of years, we've said, all right, we need to let's lean up and call that success instead. Yeah.
I think this is, something that's super important that we don't get across enough on this pod and in conversations with other investors is I think everyone has to go through this. Scale means something different for everyone, but I don't think you know where your sweet spot is with your team, especially until you've felt like you've grown too big or the wheels are falling off because you're too small. I think you have to go through that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's nothing like experience that teaches you things that For sure, you have to go through certain things.
I
Yeah.
always found like with our teams that we were, flipping between, 80, at any given year, 50 to 80 houses a year. Always felt like our team size to run lean and be efficient, it was always between 10 and 12. Once it got into the 15 numbers, for that type of operation, I always felt like it was hard to manage that extra 3, because then you have less manager to employee ratios, and it complicated, to your point earlier, it just complicated things, especially when you're working remotely. Can't even imagine, but I will say this: if you're listening to this and you've scaled up, we're not telling you not to scale up. We're telling you that as you do that, to continue to recalibrate, to make sure that the number of your team for what the revenue growth and size that you want of that business, you continue to evaluate. In today's market, lean that up as much as you possibly can. Because if I do see a common theme in 26, it has been, oh man, we really thought that spending more marketing and hiring more people would ultimately double, our revenue. And it may have, but it didn't increase the net.
Yeah.
Which is ultimately why we all are doing this, is not just for the gross, but also, but more importantly, the net side. To transition real quick, you were doing, you started off doing deals there. Obviously, you started ramping it up pretty quickly. You were flipping remotely. Is that not accurate?
We were. Yeah.
How I don't know many people that have been successful for a sustained period of time flipping remotely.
Yeah. Well, so we were flipping, we were flipping remotely, really buying based on inspection reports and things like that. And we were kind of doing the same thing in Bakersfield. We kind of had this idea of like, well, we can just do it all virtually, even if we're in our own hometown. And but I've learned lessons for sure since then. Like I'm much less risky now than I was back then. And I think I've thought about that as it's like when you really need a deal, it's easy to become risky because you need a deal. And if you don't need a deal, it's much easier to like be smart. So I would still flip in Jacksonville, and we've done that some over the past few years, but I would not just base it on an inspection report and what I think the comps are. I think 21, when the rates went up, that taught us a lot as well, because things can change quick.
Yeah, it was the first time that you would have seen something like that since you started the business full time, and that was for a lot of investors. I think where knowing you, if I were to ask your superpower, you would probably tell me something different. But I think, based upon our conversations, and this is a good share for everybody, is that you really understand your return on everything. Your return from a marketing spend standpoint, your return from an employee. Like, you really calculate that. That to me, that's what I've gotten from you the most. Is like you know exactly what your return is on everything within your business. Is that something that you've always paid attention to, or through trial and error have gotten?
No, I think through trial and error.
Yeah.
I think we've learned a lot from trial and error for sure. Yeah. So we're much more focused on that kind of thing now than we used to be.
You ask really good questions for that. I don't know if I've ever said that to you, but you ask really good questions. Like, if I spend X amount and I double that, should I see a double return on those? And that's very hard, because you can't say that for every market. It's going to be a little bit different, but it's something that you're focused on. If you're listening to this and you don't know what your return on, especially in today's market where the pie is just a little bit smaller than it has been, over the last 10 years, you have to know these things, so you're not just blindly throwing money at something that doesn't necessarily work. And I will, that's an ultimate compliment to you, because you ask those questions. Most times that we're having a conversation, you're asking those questions about where yours is today and how it compares to others across the U.S. And I think that's something where in time, you realize the importance of that, and clearly, you've made that something that is clear for you. That is a focus. All right, so you transition to wholesaling. The numbers continue to go up. At some point, though, you feel like you've gotten this at a good spot, and you say, "Well, let's start another business." Where does that come from?
Yeah, that really came out of seeing, so ChatGPT comes out, I don't know what it was, 3 years ago or something, and all of a sudden everyone's aware of AI. Maybe it's longer ago than that. I don't know. It seemed like it was.
I know I was here in Florida, and so I've been
Okay.
here for 6 years, and I know that I first heard about it from my barber.
Oh, really?
I'm getting my hair cut here, and I remember him saying, "Hey, have you heard of this thing, ChatGPT?" So it's probably 4 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. So the thing that I started thinking about is like, okay, if we can use AI to follow up and drive appointments, in my mind, that was the biggest impact that AI could have in our industry, at least at that time.
Immediate, practical.
Yeah, very practical. So I started looking around. I think the question came up at CG, and no one really knew. There was nobody really out there that was providing that as a solution. There was a couple companies, but they were focused mostly on real estate agents, things like that. So I reached out to them. They weren't a fit, and I finally found a company, and we just signed up as clients of theirs and integrated with our CRM and started having this platform reach out to our customer or our prospects and try to drive appointments. And we started seeing success right away. I forget what the numbers were, but we were getting like 3 extra contracts a month for the first. Actually, most of that year is between 2 and 3 extra contracts a month that you could trace back to AI setting the appointment. So within a few months, I was talking to the company, WooSender. I was talking to them, the owner or the CEO, and he actually kind of pushed me into starting to sell WooSender as a solution to real estate investors. So I resisted that for a while because I didn't want to get distracted.
Of course.
And over time, it was kind of like I realized this really isn't a shiny object because it's such a direct fit into our own business. So I started looking at it that way, and we started it in June of 2024, I think it was, about almost 2 years ago, and so that's where it came from. But I have looked back on it, and how do you differentiate between shiny objects and opportunities that actually work? And I think the big key is figuring out, do they fit together with what you're doing already? And if they do, great. If they don't, it could be a distraction. So
the model I see, successful models I see here in CG are the Stephanie Betters of the world, the Phil Greens of the world, where you see something that can be a solution for your own business, and you realize that there's really you can do it better than the current competition that's out there, or there really isn't. It doesn't exist yet, and I could see where this would start out as a shiny object, but if you see the results, I think that's where every service provider in this industry, if you have the opportunity to make inroads with investors because you're using it within your business and you can show them how you're using it, every service provider that is still a real estate investor has a competitive advantage for that very reason. And clearly you were making revenue. I think out of the gates, you said you were doing 3 extra deals a month just from things that you had already spent. These were leads you already spent money on, correct? They were just on follow-up to start. That was the number one reason of integrating this into your business, correct?
Right. Yeah, that was it. It was really solving problems within our own business, and then seeing the result of that. Yeah.
And where it started was, and I know it's evolved. So the company name is RiverX AI, correct? And it started with text from your current CRM, right? Text, and this was only for people that were already in your system, correct?
Yeah, it was text and email back then, and it was it was only opt-in. There was a component where you could do outreach. And we did that a little bit, but the laws have gotten, more strict even the past few years on that. So
Sure.
we don't do that at all anymore. But this was somebody else's platform, and we were more of almost a partner of theirs for the real estate industry. And so we were kind of this middleman, and providing support and providing onboarding and things like that. But it wasn't our platform. But yeah, it was text and email. They had come out with a AI voice that wasn't working real well, but nobody was really using it, but it was there. And so this is 2 years ago. This is probably the best tech available 2 years ago. And it's improved a lot since then. Just overall, the industry has improved a lot.
So what is it today?
So now, so let me back up. We worked with that company for about a year and a half. In December of this past year, we launched our own platform, and really a lot of it was partially we wanted you just have a lot more control when it's your own platform. You can control pricing, you can control the experience. We understand the tech. There's just a lot of benefits there. And not only that, but the technology had improved so much that we're using real AI to text people now. So it's prompted AI. It's not rule-based chatbots with some AI kind of sprinkled in. It's real AI tied in with OpenAI and Anthropic, texting these people, emailing these people, and also voice. So voice has come a long ways, even the past 6 months. Sounds very realistic. And so we have that as well.
So give me how you and your clients are best using this service right now that you're seeing the highest and best use of this platform.
Yeah, so the way we're using it is that it's a separate platform that really runs alongside your CRM, and we can integrate as much as you want into your CRM. So integration meaning if you move a lead in your CRM from like new to follow-up, that will also happen in Rainmaker, which is what we call our platform. It's called Rainmaker. So it'll move in Rainmaker into a sequence that might hit this person every couple of days with a text, email, and voice call to try to set the appointment. So these two platforms, like nobody wants to have to manage two platforms, but if we can integrate it well enough and have Rainmaker just sit there and work your leads and set appointments, and the output is going to be an appointment on your calendar, then it's like an AI lead manager that's just doing its thing all day long and trying to set appointments. So
it's contaminated. It's a drip campaigns, old school drip campaigns that you basically set and forget with AI technology.
Yeah, and depending on the type of lead, so if it's unresponsive, it's going to be a more of aggressive campaign. If it's a new lead, then it's going to live answer that, or we can set it up to live answer that. It can warm transfer to your team. So there's a lot you can do with it. There's a lot of customization, but yeah, that's how it works.
And mostly you said text and email, but it's evolved. You said the voice part of it is evolved. What is the voice functionality?
Yeah, so voice, we now have voice as well. So voice is it will live answer your calls if you want it to. You can have it just do nights and weekends if you want, or handle every lead coming in. It can also outbound call all your follow-ups and re-engage those leads and try to set appointments.
Okay.
We can actually prompt it to qualify the lead. We can really prompt it to do anything you want. My philosophy, though, I think this is where we're a little different than some other companies that do voice AI or do AI in general. My philosophy is minimize a little bit what the AI does with the prospect. My thinking is let the AI re-engage the prospect and set an appointment, and let the human being do what we do best, which is build rapport, build trust, and solve problems. Let AI do what it does best, which is re-engage these people and set appointments. So if we can separate that, I think that's a winning strategy.
You beat me to it. I enjoy the new technology as it comes down the pike, from the standpoint of the voice part of it. But where you really had me was, we all know that the cliche is the fortune is in the follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, if you look at most people's biggest challenge in this space if you gave everyone, where's one piece that you feel like you could get better at, that even if you're good today, that you could even get more at a higher level, it would be follow-up. And if you're using technology, that's what you originally signed up for, correct? Was
Right.
to make sure that dead leads are not dead.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at it from that perspective, great lead managers, even great automated campaigns are not interactive. Like, this is actually interacting from if you're just using it from a text perspective, correct? This is actually having conversations to set appointments with people that are already in your system.
Right.
And so now you take your ROAS from a 3x to, a 6x or 10x, because you're not wasting anything that's in your CRM. If it's dead, it's truly dead, utilizing this type of technology, correct?
Yeah, exactly. I think of this as a ROAS enhancer. That's what this is. It's not its own marketing channel. You pair this with all of your other marketing channels, and this is a ROAS enhancer. I've thought of, like, a lot of us still talk about speed to lead. How do we increase or decrease speed to lead? I think there's going to come a day where nobody asks that question anymore. It's just done. Speed to lead is solved. It's kind of like no one asks, how do you make sure all the leads are in your CRM? Well, they just happen. It just does it. No one wonders about that. That's not a problem we all worry about. We worry about other things.
Right.
Speed to leads, I think, is going to be something like that. Even follow-up. Am I doing all my follow-up? Am I staying on top of it? I think that's a problem that will be solved. It's already getting solved, but over time, the industry will adopt it.
Yeah, now obviously not everyone has solved it. This is a solution for that. If you were looking at, if we broke down the two things for River X and for your home buying business, give us one thing that is working really, really well for you in those two businesses currently. And that could be for River, that could be for other clients, for other investors.
Yeah. I think, man, it's a good question. I think the thing that's working well with RiverX is the AI is gotten so good that I think people are blown away by how well it works. And so when all we do is, when we onboard someone, is we get them integrated with their CRM and then just let the thing run. And that's been fun. It's not a glitchy system that you're constantly trying to tweak with. There's some prompts we got to adjust based on, what each client wants, but the system works. It's just a matter of making sure it pairs correctly with whatever your sales process is. So that's been working well. I think our tech team works well. Our onboarding team is good on that. As far as the RiverX or the prime buyer side, I think what we've been having a lot of success with is just focusing, like narrowing our focus down on just wholesales, just wholesaling. Past couple of years, we would hire guys and we would try to explain to them novations and how novations work and and the problem with that I kind of realized is it was this whole big complicated thing that they never some of them didn't quite understand, and we ended up just getting bad deals from it. So everyone understands wholesaling and everyone understands what that means. And so now it's just like, get the best deal you can and let's go turn around and sell that thing. So
lean, laser focused on ROAS, focused on follow-up. These are all reasons for the success here, and you should be excited about those. Speaking of excited, as a whole, in life right now, business, all things encompassing, what are you most excited about in 26?
I'm excited to see RiverX grow. I think that's a lot of it. As far as just life and family, my daughter is going into high school next year, so that's
son is going into high school next year. I can understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a change. I didn't think it would come quite this fast.
Me either.
But I've got a couple great girls, so
Yeah,
it's fun to raise them.
It's fun to do life, man, when you have a family and you're excited about your businesses. In this particular case, did you think a farmer from Bakersfield would be running a real estate company and a tech company in
No,
2026?
no, for sure not. Especially not a tech company. I'm like, I'm, I don't consider myself a super deep tech guy,
Yep.
but it's more like what it is you find problems and you figure out solutions, and then you hire great people that figure out how to make all that happen. And so that's it's been fun though.
I've seen that over the years, man. If I look at the service providers that, some of them have made it their core business while still, doing investing, but the tech company has become their main company. They were not techie people. They were just like, hey, I can't find this solution. So I know how to solve problems, and I know how to hire people that know how to do the things that I don't know how to do. And that's what I've seen. When you focus on the problem, the solution becomes the business. And you are a really good example of that. What do your parents think of, where you and your brother are at this point?
Yeah, I've got great parents. I'm really lucky. I have some great parents. My dad has been both my parents, my mom and dad, but especially my dad has been such a huge support to us over the years, and been watching us grow, proud of us as we've grown, and helped us out when we needed help. So I think as I grow older, I appreciate them more and more, to the point where, yeah, I can't say enough about that. It's, I could go on and on, but yeah, I've got a great set of parents.
I ask
Yep.
because, as farmers, farmers are hardworking, humble people that, built this country, helped us build this country and keep this country fed and blah, all those other things that come with that. And so when they see their sons in tech and real estate, I'm sure they're super proud, but also never imagined that the
Yeah.
two of you would be doing what you're doing. It's a fascinating story, one that I told the listeners out of the gates, that, from where you came from and what you're doing today. You're based in California, you're crushing in Jacksonville, and then you start an AI company without being a techie person. It's a great story. It's a great journey, and I'm glad that we were able to share it here today. If people, I know there's investors listening to this right now that, they know that they can get better at follow-up. How do they reach out to you and learn more about RiverX?
Yeah, so you can go to riverxhub.com is our website. We're on Instagram. Actually, my sister-in-law has been blowing up Instagram lately, so that's fun. She's been helping us a lot there. That's I think it's RiverX. I think it's RiverX AI or RiverX_AI, something like that. You'll
We'll do it in
find
the
it.
show notes. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're on Facebook as well. And then you can reach me through Facebook. I'm probably connected to all your friends. If you're in real estate at all, I've got, I'm probably connected there. So reach out and we can help you with AI.
That's Brad Bone with RiverX, and is it Prime Home Buyers? Is that
Prime buyers.
Prime Buyers in Jacksonville, Florida? I always tell people, someone will say, hey, I got a friend that's in this city and their business name is this. I'm like, what is their name? Because we have so many business, and you have two business names, probably have a lot more than that. So I always struggle with the business names, but not the person, because I know where that person is and what market they're in. But my friend, thank you for sharing your journey with us. It's a unique one and a fun one. And obviously, if you need help with follow-up, this is your guy. Brad, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Leon. Been fun.
Much appreciated. And if you would love to be in the room with members like Brad Bone, we'd love to have a conversation with you. The best way to do that is go to our website, explorecg.com. There you'll find our application. You'll find all the information about all 4 of our tiers. And if you're a full-time real estate investor, we'd love to have a conversation with you, especially if you're looking to grow your business and be in the room and learn from members like Brad that have been obviously grew into this business and learn and trial and error as you learned on this show here today. So again, that's explorecg.com. Love to have a conversation with you. Always love to join you every single week with a new member, and we'll be back next week with another CG member on the Collective Genius podcast. See you then.
New episodes every week. To learn more, visit explorecg.com, where real estate investors come to scale.